All right, really excited to have you here with us today, Derral. Listeners, Derral is a YouTube certified expert, then founder and CEO of Creatus and of Vid Summit. Heard really good things about Vid Summit. He's helped 21 channels start from nothing to get to over 1 million subscribers for each. He's generated over 41 billion views on YouTube and 20 billion on Facebook. Derral was also the executive producer on several viral video campaigns, including the Squatty Potty's ice cream pooping unicorn ad, which won the ad of the year at the Webbies. I love that commercial. That is awesome. Derral, it's so great to have you on the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm just excited to be here.
Yeah.
Especially when we can nerd out. Like, what gets me the most excited in life is when we can nerd out. Like, seriously, finding people that are like-minded, we can talk what we love to talk about. So this would be great.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I had another podcast called The Optimized Geek. So I consider myself more of a geek than a nerd, but I rebranded that on my coach's advice that not everybody self-identifies as a geek or a nerd for that matter. And so I was alienating a large potential audience. So I rebranded to get yourself optimized.
It's just music to my ears. Is like geek, nerd. It's all the same. People that obsess with things, which is awesome.
There are some distinct differences, like pocket protectors for nerds and geeks are early adopters, usually Mac users. So anyways,
so we're starting to do a profile. That's pretty funny. No, I look at the people that are actually running the world right now. I don't know if you want to call them nerds or geeks, but they're the ones that actually are making the decisions that are affecting all of us. I mean, you look at...
You're referring to the Illuminati, of course, right?
Okay, maybe not that. Maybe they're in there somewhere.
All right.
Yeah, no, it's all fun.
Okay, so let's geek out or nerd out about AI, because I'm really excited about where things are headed in terms of SEO and marketing and AI. I was at the Abundance 360 conference a few months ago that's run by Peter Diamandis. We were getting an inside look at some of the new tech that's coming, AI and 3D printing, nanotech, longevity technology. It was mind-blowingly awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
First of all, define for our listeners what the heck is AI and why should we care as marketers, especially when we're talking about YouTube?
Well, here's the thing is at the end of the day, everything evolves, and it evolves to a point where systems and processes get smarter because we have data. And you have two types of data. You have structured data and unstructured data. And what's interesting is platforms now, and we'll use YouTube specifically because I'm wearing a YouTube shirt because that's what you do when you're talking about YouTube. I don't know if you do that. But anyway, when they shifted from the model of, oh, we have an algorithm and now we have an AI, that was 2012, and they went from views to actually other indicators like watch time was a huge shift. And they were able to 4x their amount of views and watch time in just a few months because it was getting machines to predict what would be the best for viewers to watch. And that is something interesting. So it's looking for patterns. It's looking for little things that they can put in a structure. And then there's also unstructured data that they're actually pulling it in and saying, okay, this is what this person wants. And based off of this viewing behavior, this other similar type of person, we can actually start suggesting content that's there. And when YouTube did that, they went all in. And they tried with their own AI at first, and then their parent company, Google, has probably one of the most amazing AIs out there. It's called Google Brain. And they were able to pull that into YouTube. And since then, they're doing billions of hours watched every day. And it all has to do with 70%, 75% of all those views come from the AI predicting what people want to watch. And I don't know about your viewing habits on YouTube. I bet they've increased quite a bit over the years because, YouTube's starting to see it. As it's getting more data, it's getting us the content that we want to see.
Yeah. So back in 2010, Google, Alphabet, acquired DeepMind, and they are some of the smartest AI researchers in the world, and having that amazing resource now inside of the Googleplex allows YouTube to leverage what those incredible people are doing to make better recommendations for YouTube users, to suss out what's real and what's spam, and to get at the intention of the user and not just the keywords that they're searching for.
Right. Right. And that was the shift, because I know a lot of people are saying, oh, what keyword should I use? in my title and my tags and so on. And I'm like, that's almost so old. It's like 2014. Like they made a huge shift towards it where, yeah, maybe when they first upload it just to start associating it, but once they are able to gather the data, which is viewing behavior and how people interact and what type of videos they do. And then two, they're also looking at what's being said in the videos. Like that's part of the AI is to predict that and start to see patterns. So, oh, here's a word that they use and there's other videos that use this. The density of that video has this word used this time or the similar words to that. Well, here's some other videos that are similar to that, similar size. And maybe they'll consume that because it has some of the data points that this specific video has.
Yeah. That reminds me, there's a really cool demo of an AI from Google Cloud, the natural language AI.
Oh, that is off the charts.
Yeah. So you don't even have to be a paying customer to try this out. You can just scroll down the page. I'll include a link in the show notes. Yep. And paste in some text. It could be text from your SRT file, for example.
Yep.
From the transcript of your video. And a lot of people don't even realize that YouTube creates transcripts of what you're saying in the video automatically. Now, it's not always perfect, so you should go in there and tweak whatever mistakes it's made. But that's all searchable content. And then you can copy that content, that textual content, paste it into this natural language API demo, and see how salient the different entities or keywords are, or the entities are like groups of keywords, how salient, or in other words, how relevant and prominent are these different keywords in your audio. And if it seems weird to the AI that it's not natural, it doesn't seem that salient, then you're going to get a poor score. And that's really powerful.
Yeah. I look at it, try to simplify it. I don't know the level of every listener or viewer on this podcast. It's like that natural language. It's kind of like the keyword cloud that you're able to see several years ago that just start grouping keywords together and then it creates this association. It's like that 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon almost. It's just trying to identify keywords that would be similar and what people are using. Well, that's the same thing that YouTube's using right now is it's able to see and identify what's being said in the video, the tonality of it, also the pacing, how many words per second is there, also the images they're able to pull in with Google Cloud Vision, that element as well, and start seeing, okay, what is this content really about? And is there similar content out there? And then also it puts those videos together where it can increase the probability of recommendation for the viewer to consume.
Yeah. So a lot of the secret to success of some of your clients and some of your own videos have been the recommendation engine.
I would say 39 billion of those views is all about the recommendation. The other billions is just like dumb luck. I'll be honest with you.
So people are searching on YouTube. It's the number 2 search engine by query volume.
Yeah, but it's a very small percentage. When you're looking at the amount of views that YouTube's at, if you really want to get a volume of views, and that's the only way to really grow a channel is to get the volume of views, and that kind of coincides with subscribers, which YouTube doesn't really care about because they're really good at predicting what people want to watch. That being said, that's 75% of all views. And so just a small percentage will be search, but yet it is a huge search engine. People use it religiously for finding out how to do things or learning about things and so on. And it can trigger some of the metrics that YouTube looks at to say, hey, this content's good, let's serve it out to more people. But I need to clearly define that there's 2 types of systems. So when you're talking about the AI, it has 2 parts of the brain. The first part is for search. The other part is for discovery, and they work completely different. And they have different things that are triggers to rank better and so on. But it also works in harmony at the end all, like getting data from the search portion of it will help saying, oh, this is a really good video. We found it in search. It's getting a high number of people click on it. Let's start recommending it out to similar videos that would be related to this. And so that's kind of where the balance is. But there are a lot of videos that are just search heavy driven, and they don't see a lot of YouTube recommendation. And that's because there's not a lot to recommend on that type of content.
I see. So if we wanted to really hack the YouTube algorithm, we want to focus on the recommendation engine and have something that has more broader appeal than something super esoteric that's in a niche all by itself.
Right. I mean, I do love the micro niches, and I think that YouTube's the best place for that. I mean, you can find content on about anything, but to really get massive amount, we're talking billions of views, you have to be more mainstream. It has to be something that appeals. Now, that being said, what's interesting is the AI is help predict predicting what people want to watch, because they're going to start seeing data and they're like, hey, here's some abnormal data. Like, this is a data that's there. Let's serve it out to more people like that. And before you know it, you actually have a trend on YouTube. This is something that people can see, and then more creators see, oh my gosh, this has so many views. Let's do this. This is something that we can create. So it's almost facilitating content creation, which it is on YouTube, because people are being inspired because of the almighty dollar that comes from those video views.
So how would you get insight into what is trending and kind of ride on the coattails of what's already becoming popular? How do you see, like in Facebook or Twitter, there are ways to get insight into trending topics, trending hashtags, for example. You can use BuzzSumo to see what's going viral in these social sites. What's the secret sauce for YouTube?
Yeah, so YouTube actually has a trending tab, and they just say, here's the trending content in your region. They did strip away, like you could drill down by state, you could do by country, you could do by region, you could see what's the most popular. They've taken that away, and I think people were using it to manipulate a little bit, and they're really sensitive. It's like, oh, they're using this to manipulate, and it really punishes those content creators that were using it for good, but it's just they took that away. But there is the trending tab, and you can click on that. But it's pretty much seeing what's happening on Reddit, believe it or not, than YouTube. Reddit is like my favorite playground, and it's kind of one of those secret hidden gems or dens, whatever you want to call it. For YouTube, it's like when you can find a subreddit and you can see what's really working there, it has a high probability that video content is going to perform extremely high on YouTube. Give you an example, like part of our strategies is like, hey, let's look at, see what's working, and then see people would respond to, make video content that would respond to that. And then it's a natural fit. And when it's a natural fit and it's organic, you can get to the top of Reddit. And if you hit the front page of Reddit, I mean, we're talking 12 million views we got in a day off of a video. It just works really, really well. And it's not anything. It's just this new influx of views coming into YouTube on the platform, which triggers that metric of, hey, you're bringing a whole bunch of people on the platform, and guaranteed they're going to watch more than one video. Maybe not the whole 100% that's coming on. Maybe it's just 60% or 70%, but that's a high amount of volume. And then YouTube saying, oh, they're watching some, they're starting a session. Let's go ahead and recommend and reward this video to go out to more people. And before you know it, you have a 50, 60 million view video on your hand. I mean, it's pretty fun, like geeking out over it. And that's not the bad term geek. This is a good geek.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So if your video starts this binging session of 3 hours of watch time, and it's not even your videos, you just started it off, you kicked it off, you get rewarded by the algorithm.
Absolutely, you do. It's called a session start, and YouTube does not tell us the percentage of weight that goes towards it, but they've mentioned that, hey, if you bring someone to start a session and they come back frequently and you're the place that starts a session, they're going to reward that. And I just see channels that there's another part of the YouTube recommendation engine, which is called Browse Feature. And what Browse Feature is basically content that's on the home feed, it's in the trending tab, and then it's also just finding people. It's just like, it just kind of browses to see where you're at. And, just this content just follows you when you get in there, and it could be just going from there. And that's what I believe is that indicator when YouTube really likes this is, hey, you're bringing content on or people on because of your content. Let's reward that. And you'll see a huge spike of increase through the browse feature.
Very cool. And timing of when you publish that video is very important, right? So if you publish a video and it had potential, but then you go on vacation for a week, you just destroyed your chances of that video going viral, right?
Things have changed. If we were to have this conversation 3 years ago, I would say absolutely. But things have changed now where more views are coming from Evergreen. That means after that first 7 days, you're getting more and more views. And so the way that I like to explain it is when you release a video, YouTube has a specific hour that they'll promote that video. Sometimes it's for 7 days, sometimes it's for 2 days or whatever. It really changes. And that's one of those things that they change quite a bit. Like right now, it's pretty much 48 hours that you get prime suggestion, and then it kind of slopes down and goes off a little bit, and then it kicks back on a week or two or even 3 weeks or even a month or two down the road. Just to give you context of it, is I've uploaded a video that I thought would perform very well. It did get some suggestion, but it never got the amount of views that it was there. all the indicators were right. And I'm like, man, I'm scratching my head. What's going on with that? 2 months later, it explodes. It like literally just took off, and we were getting 2 million, 3 million views a day for at least 14 days on that. And then it's just kind of petered down. And I know the cycle that it'll just kind of go away for, maybe 45 days or so, and it'll kick back up where, we might be getting 1,000 views per hour or 2,000 views per hour, 3,000 views per hour for that video. And so there's just different lengths. And so you have the promotion is the first portion of it. And then you have the tail end, the evergreen. And YouTube's been really trying to give creators the opportunity to take a break and not be punished by not pushing out content. Now, that being said, I just need to explain something because I don't want people to get an idea to think, hey, I can just take a month off and it'll be okay. Generally, when you do your next upload, you'll get more promotion than you had prior because YouTube said, hey, we want to reward you. We want you to get this sense of euphoria that, hey, things are working and it's not as bad as it seems. And, you're on the uptick. But the reality is this. Suggestion comes from your own videos. You have a high number of views that are coming from your own video content. And so as you're uploading new video content, it is suggesting your other videos. And when you take a break, when you're not uploading, it's not recommending to those other videos that people might watch 2 or 3 videos because it's being suggested to them based off of that upload. And that's the thing that they're trying to tweak as much. And I've noticed probably a huge shift as about the middle of March on this. And I see the last 48 hours promotion getting out to more people like it did like 2 years ago. But that's one of those indicators that they change frequently.
Gotcha. Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do we need to full circle on that one?
Well, there's so many angles we could look at this from. So let's take the evergreen versus ephemeral content angle. So you upload something that is kind of news of the moment, news jacked something, but it's going to be old news in a week or two. That's probably not a great strategy for YouTube. It might work for Facebook, but it's probably not a great strategy for YouTube, right? You want to have more evergreen content because that's going to get you more views over the long haul. Tell us more about like what nuances are around evergreen versus ephemeral.
That's a great discussion. And I have creators reach out to me and says, I am burned out on YouTube. I'm not even happy to do this. I've been uploading solid for the last 5 years. Every day it's the grind and they're doing it. And like for me, YouTube's created a culture of getting people burned out. And I've seen people come and go for multiple reasons. But the main reason is they start to lose views and they start to lose the money that goes with those views. And it's because they're always posting content. They're not being as creative and connecting with their audience like they once was. So that being said, the daily vlogger of waking up in the morning and showing you my day and ending at night, I believe is not very healthy as a content creator. I think taking an event and saying, hey, we're going to this event and you're creating a video around that event that might happen in a day, that's going to be more effective because the way that they digest it, if it's in a digital daily content, people are like, oh, that was yesterday, that's old news. I want something there. And so when it's more event-based, and where it's weaved into tentpole opportunities like, holidays, like right now we have the playoffs at NBA, you weave stuff into things that always happen every year, you have a higher probability of trending when those topics are trending and have it kind of be relatable. And so doing those experience-based is definitely far better in that. And that is more evergreen because it can be shown at any time. It doesn't date really itself because if you do it in a way, you're saying, hey, I want this to last longer than a week. I want it to last for years. You think it creating content a little bit differently.
Yeah, that reminds me from an SEO perspective, I would tell my clients like CNET and Digital Trends, clients of mine that produce a lot of content that keeps kind of getting recycled and redone every year, like the holiday gift buying guide sort of thing, right? And then they would make a new URL each time for that content piece. So the new version would be at a URL with the year in it. Terrible idea.
Yeah.
Because now they're starting over again with no juice. Instead, they should have a stable URL that is the same year after year, and then they archive the old year's content if it's even still relevant or people still want it to a date-based URL. That's fine, but the stable evergreen home for that repeating piece of content needs to be dateless. And there's a way to apply that idea. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on that.
I think things of date are very relevant when you're getting these monumental moments that will be archived, and it's something that people want to look at. Today, I was watching a launch of SpaceX, and it happened a few weeks ago. Yeah, it was a specific date that launched, but I wanted to see those rockets land. I mean, it was the heavy Falcon booster rockets coming down. I just wanted to see that. I saw it on the internet. I didn't get to see the full launch. So that was more relevant. And I think anytime that there's a launch that's SpaceX, that video is still relevant. I really do believe that, because that's that archive thing and people want to see that type of content. And I think the listicle type of things of, hey, what to buy in a given year can be effective. It's just like changing the way that you present it. So it's like good Christmas gift ideas for men instead of saying good Christmas gift ideas for men in 2019. It's just like get very specific of, hey, these are good ideas. And then it's just more listicle that way, not necessarily date driven.
Right. And then would you recommend that people update the video? When you update a web page, you can put in a new video embed, you can put in all sorts of new products, new tips and tricks and so forth, and really refresh that page. But with YouTube video, you can't upload a new version of that video, right?
I generally do. And let me tell you why we actually upload a new version of it is because it's going to suggest the older one. And you can tie that, you can create data points between the two. And it's just like, you can put part 2 in the series. You can create a series playlist, which even groups it even further together. As long as you don't feel it's outdated and there's going to be some value that comes from there. And yeah, it might be older gifts, but if people are looking for gift ideas, it's great that if there's a second video or a third video or a fourth video, that creates a series. And that's part of the thing that YouTube wants. It wants to recommend videos for people to consume one right after another. They want that binge effect to happen. And if you can help facilitate that, and that's the easiest way to do it, is when somebody says, oh, that was a really cool video, I want to see what else they got. Because they know it's going to be different than the one they have. As long as the video is different but has that same structure, that's when you're knocking it out of the park. Because YouTube will recommend that video because that would be a naturally recommended video. And if you have a percentage of your views going in from that, you're going to create that data relationship between videos that make it really interesting for that AI to say, oh, this is what people want to watch next. And the higher that percentage is, that's when you have that guaranteed spot of the next up video, which is a massive amount of traffic.
Right. So I would think that the best kind of structure to a series of videos would be to make it like a TV series, season 1, episode 1, season 1, episode 2, etc.
Just don't ever name it like that because that's not YouTube. But yeah, it's the same concept where it can be watched in an order, but it could also be watched as a standalone. I think that's the key to that is it needs to be able to live on its own, but if it was watched in a series, it would make sense.
Okay, got it. Now, as far as doing research for what kinds of videos to create on what sorts of topics, you mentioned the trending tab. There's also looking at what's trending on other social platforms like trending hashtags on Twitter, for example. There's also Google Trends, which has a YouTube feature. A lot of people don't know that. You just choose where it says web search. There's a pull down there, and then you choose YouTube search, and you can compare keywords to each other and see how YouTube searchers are behaving. Very different from Google search behavior.
It definitely is. And what I find fascinating too is kind of the fill-in data. So the autofill, what people are actually searching for, it does fluctuate as well. And it does change from Google to YouTube as well. We've been using Google Trends ever since they made it available. It's like a way to help predict what's going to happen before it happens a little bit. And then you can start seeing, oh, this term is taking off. What do we need to do? We do research. So you start doing some recon. You search very specifically on YouTube, and you can start creating filter sets, which a lot of people don't do. It just blows my mind they don't even do this. But you can hit advanced and you can say, okay, I want to see the most viewed video in the last 7 days. And it'll show you everything that's going on there. And then it's just like you're able to start seeing these little trends and these micro niches that it really can take off. If you go back and look at the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, it was very specific how it started. And we have great documentation. It's a great case study. It was just wonderful to see that happen. But what we were able to do, if you're able to see that, you can start seeing that, oh, this is starting to trend. Let's see what's happening. And you could see the curve before it even started to come up. It's just like, okay, here's the influx of people. And you go back even an hour. It's just the amount of people that were uploading onto YouTube with that was ridiculous.
What do you see that's more current or upcoming that might trend very big that you
Well, it depends on your demographic. The audience that I probably pay the closest attention to is Gen Z. And Gen Z, like even at my house, I have some Gen Z kids and 65-inch, 70-inch, whatever TV on the wall, but yet they're on their little devices, right? And they'd rather watch it here. And so understanding what their behaviors are, they'll watch Netflix occasionally, but they're really heavily into the YouTube creators. That YouTube creator world is there. So I like to try to predict what they're doing because that's the bulk of where the internet traffic is that's happening online. And they're most hardcore. And then you have that group, and then you definitely have your millennials. You have Gen X and then the baby boomers and so on and so forth. So it just depends on where you're going at. I mean, right now, things are trending like in the sports world. Of course, you have the NBA playoffs and the finals, and you have the specific teams and stuff like that. But then you'll have trends that happen within itself. Like Fortnite's been a very solid trend for a couple years. And as you get closer to things that happen really weird in the game, that people start talking about it, start making videos, and it creates more of that buzz that's organic. There's some changes that was being made last night. A lot of things that people are trying to figure out, and they're trying to hypothesize. And so Epic has done a great job. Donald Mustard, those guys have just fantastic for really setting their own trends and really getting that momentum going. But it really depends. There's trends all over the place, and you have the news and everything that kind of coincides together. I think the biggest thing for SEO, if we're just talking SEO trends, 100% AI. Like AI, machine learning, predictive learning, unstructured data, structured data, that's where some massive trends. And we're going to see, I think this is the year of AI. I really do. I think with Facebook and Torch and a few others, these are getting more mature. And as they're more mature, and it makes those objectives, when they're achieving their objectives, they're going to just start doubling down on a lot of this artificial intelligence that's going to really help us.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you mentioned Gen Z is a huge audience on YouTube. They don't really look at Facebook as a place to hang out, right?
I can tell you, I have a 13-year-old. I'm like, hey, you're 13, you can get on Facebook. He's like, why would I get on Facebook? Only grandparents are on Facebook. I'm not a grandparent. I'm your dad. He's like, yeah, like I said, only grandparents. I go, what are you saying?
Yeah.
No, but it's just like they don't even want to be there. They avoid it like the plague. And like I just wanted to put him on there so I could tag him, but he like, no, that's not even a place that they communicate.
Well, even if they have an account, it's a ghost town for
absolutely. Absolutely. But Instagram's not. And that's why Facebook saw, hey, if we want the Gen Z market, we need to get Instagram. And that's where the bulk of them are, between Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat, you know. But there was definitely an exodus of Snapchat, you know, over the last couple of years, because you had mainstream parents and marketers and other people that they didn't want to be a part of that. So they kind of shifted where they were going to go. And they just want to have their own platform, basically.
Now, what about gamers who are live streaming their gameplay? Is that more on YouTube, more on Twitch? Tell us a bit more about that trend.
Yeah. So look, at the end of the day, Twitch is an amazing platform. It was Justin TV, and it was really focused in on a small niche, which is gameplay, live gameplay. And it's evolved into something more. A lot of creators want to be, like a lot of kids, Gen Z, they want to be a YouTuber, they want to be a streamer, they want to be a gamer. Where they're looking is definitely Twitch. But the problem with that is, to be a part of their partner program, you have to go through so many other hurdles to even be allowed to make money on it. Where YouTube is like, you have 4,000 hours and 1,000 subscribers, you're our partner. So you kind of have two different worlds. From a creator's experience, I think YouTube is better because it has a higher probability to get more views, to suggest content, whether it's live or archived or whatever it may be. It can go into the regular video library. There's more opportunity. Now, for a live element, this is where a lot of content creators on Twitch really complain, is not getting that promotion like they would on other platforms. And so where that's going, it's a very difficult thing. Gaming world's like really saturated right now. It's really tough. And it's not necessarily about the most amazing gameplay, but you are literally entertaining people. And I like to make the comparison is, you have, let's just take basketball, for example. You have professional NBA basketball team, and then you have the Harlem Globetrotters. And you have two different types of audiences. I can tell you, if you get the Harlem Globetrotters that have the most amazing plays and shots, and that's what they're talking about, those channels would grow extremely fast. Those that are just tactical on play, they will too, but there's other people out there and it's all more competitive stuff. And then you kind of have a blended strategy where it's like Ninja. Like Ninja's a perfect example of this. And you have the professional side where he does tournaments and is amazing at it, but he also brings in the play. And I just don't know how he streams for like 12, 13 hours a day. Like I would get sick of it after an hour, but that's that audience.
Yeah.
So
It's such a different world. I can't imagine streaming for any length of time. I just can't be bothered. There are some huge names on YouTube, big YouTubers who have made a fortune off of live streaming their gameplay, like PewDiePie and Captain Sparkles and stuff.
Oh, no.
Yep.
Oh, no.
One of those guys, I think, recently left the platform for a different platform because there was a much greater monetization opportunity. Do you recall?
To say they left the platform was clickbait. I think they decided to start streaming over on the other one, but they're still uploading videos. It's like the amount of money that they make by uploading videos in that ecosystem, they would be foolish to walk away from that. I mean, the money, it just can't be as big. And so even if it was for the long-term play, it's just like they'll still upload. So PewDiePie was the one that started streaming their content on a blockchain service, which is really interesting. I think blockchain is definitely the future. It's very interesting. And he went to that direction, but he's still uploading content on YouTube. So
some of our listeners, probably many of them, are not really that familiar with the whole esports movement and gaming in general. They're probably not familiar with Fortnite unless they have kids, or League of Legends. And there are bands that are put on the map because of a big tournament, League of Legends. At the Abundance 360 conference, I became aware of this. They showed this huge stadium of people. This was a pop band that was created by League of Legends. And they made this song, Pop Stars, I think is the name of the song. And they had massive number of viewers around the world. It might have surpassed the Super Bowl or something. It was like crazy numbers. I don't remember.
Guaranteed. Like, here's the thing, and I want everyone listening and watching to this to really pay attention to this. Where the trends are, you have to follow the almighty dollar. You figure out where the dollar is, and that's where trends will normally go. You take all the movies that were put out last year, you put all the money that was made on those movies and you put it all together. And then on top of that, you put all the money that was made on television, you put it all together. And gaming and esports was 3x that.
Amazing.
I mean, you look at Fortnite, I mean, they're giving $100 million away this year. They're doing almost $1 billion a month. I mean, that's just one game, a free game, mind you. And they're just buying skins and just the other things that they do that's naturally gamified in that game. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. It's like, this is a massive, massive market. There's so much money there, and people are willing to drop, $50 to $100 to $200 a month just so that they can have the gameplay that they're looking for, which is nuts.
Yeah. Buying virtual goods and having people create these virtual things that you're buying with your hard-earned money. It just seems kind of ridiculous to me.
Like, it does seem ridiculous, but in the same sense, it's like, it's the same thing, but it's virtually, right? So like, my mom was like, why would anybody want to watch video games? Like, why does anybody want to watch basketball? Like, why wouldn't you want to go play basketball instead of watch it? Well, no, it's entertaining. Well, that's that new generation. They're entertained just as much. I actually like to watch gaming. One of my things that I like to bond with my boys is when they're playing Fortnite, I like to harass them a little bit. I'm right there, watching them play, and then they get to watch me play and they make fun of me, and it's just kind of back and forth like that. But that's kind of where things are going. It's like, this is a sport and people will recreate with it, and they'll also watch. And I think esports is super fascinating. I think all the NBA teams right now are getting their own gaming league, and gaming teams and being part of the league. And it's getting very, very interesting, and they're filling arenas all around the world, and people are paying quite a bit of money to be in to watch people play video games.
Wild. A different world. Different world.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's circle back to this concept of identifying topics or entities, because there were a couple other tools I wanted to talk about. Right. We briefly mentioned Google Trends and the YouTube search option, and that you mentioned the YouTube Suggest autocomplete as giving some valuable insight into what's popular. And also there's another tool. This one's from Search Metrics. It's a paid tool, but I really like it. It's not just for keyword research for Google. You could use it for YouTube as well, but it's not YouTube specific. And that's the Topic Explorer from Search Metrics. I don't know if you've ever played with that.
No, I definitely have. I try to stay on top of all the tools. I think the difference would be how it's pulling its data in. and is it being scraped and pulled in, or is it tapped in with the API? A tool that I like a little bit more than that, it's also a paid tool, is vidIQ.
Mm-hmm.
This tool was 100% mint, and it's tapped into the API. It's able to pull reports and things that you get a little bit more intimately. It can pull in to see, hey, what's the volume of views that this is getting, and where's it at in the cycle? Is it massively coming in? How many views per hour is it getting right now? And is that ramping up? And that's one of those factors that YouTube looks at. And so it's able to pull a lot of little things in. One thing I like about it is for competitive analysis and also keyword research to see what's actually happening in real time. It can go out and get real-time data where a lot of these other places that scrape would have to still scrape and get that. So
Gotcha. So that's vidIQ, and they have a Chrome extension.
Oh, and it is off the charts. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So you were mentioning earlier, like tags are so 2014.
That's right.
One of the many features of the vidIQ extension, the reason why I first found out about that tool was I was trying to figure out, well, what are the tags on these competitors' videos? And that's one of the things that it exposes.
It does, and it's really cool. I still do tags, even though that I know there's not a lot of weight behind it because of the natural language API into Google Brain, and that's where everything's at. But it's like, at the end of the day, you got to optimize. Even if it's a small percentage, that's a small percentage higher, that you have a little bit higher probability. And so, yeah, that's a great tool to see what your competitor is using.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep. And then there's hashtags as well, which is something that YouTube fairly recently added to its capabilities, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of torn on that one. And let me tell you why. Is the hashtag, how it comes up before your title. And I've been testing it out since it came out. And it was kind of a novelty thing and seeing where it's going. But I found that when someone, that gives another bounce point. So when someone's watching a video, they see recommended videos. And most of the views right now that are happening on YouTube are on a mobile device. And so generally they'd have to flip their phone and then they can start scrolling, flipping between the video suggestions. Well, where it's at the very, very top is your title, and that's where the hashtags are at. So like that would be a quick place to search, and that would be a bounce point. So I'm like, why would I want to send people off my video and create another thing? And so I've been doing a lot of tests on that. It's inconclusive at this point, but it's leaning towards that I would probably never recommend doing it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Because you're going to bleed away a lot of the potential viewers from watching more of your videos on your playlist because they clicked on it.
Well, it could just be that one particular video that they're watching right now. If they jump off 15 seconds earlier or 30 seconds earlier, you're losing those watch time minutes. That's what is the main key factor of really getting recommended by YouTube.
Yep, got it. All right. What about Video Amigo? Are you familiar with that tool?
I'm not.
Okay, so that's something to look into. I've had one of the guys behind that tool, Jeff Martin, on this podcast talking about YouTube SEO. So that was a great episode, listeners. I'll include a link to that in the show notes. Yeah, Video Amigo and Voot.net are two of their tools that are pretty awesome.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
For sure.
Cool. What about other tools that I should have asked you about that I hadn't? Which ones do you want to mention?
My favorite tool for YouTube is TubeBuddy. Okay. Let me tell you why. It isn't necessarily an SEO tool. It has some SEO components to it. Like I can see competitors and see what my competitors are doing, and we can group them all together. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's like channel management. So like if I want to switch out a link in all 1,000 videos, I can do that fairly quickly by just doing a find and replace with that tool, and they're tapped into the API and they just go for it. I use probably that tool more than any other tool on YouTube just because it helps me manage multiple channels. And what I'm able to do normally in a 20-hour manual process, I can do in maybe 30, 40 minutes with TubeBuddy, just because it has automation and some systems and such from there. So that's the huge tool I'd recommend for everyone. And the company's trusted, and I love them because they really understand what creators want, and they're providing it. So one of the tools that I use, this is on their Legend account, but it's still awesome, is they do A/B testing. So you can start doing A/B testing on your title, and you can do A/B testing on your thumbnail. I would never recommend doing it at the same time. Just pick one and go from there. But that will help get that click-through rate up, because that's that first metric that YouTube looks at, is how many impressions and how many clicks are on those impressions. And if you could increase that 2%, 3%, 4%, that's going to bring in more opportunity to get those views that are out there.
Awesome. Now, do you go back into your back catalog of old videos and update the thumbnails and the titles and descriptions, tags, all that?
I do quite a bit. When they first gave us the data, I was like a kid in a candy store. I'm telling you, I was the most excited because before that, my number one tool was seeing things in real time, and you had real time analytics. Until when they gave us the video performance funnel where that click-through rate was, and now you can also, there's a report there that you can kind of pull in and show all your click-through data. I was like a kid in a candy store. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been waiting for this, and we've been doing ads just to see which one would have the click-through on some projects that we would do, just because if we could increase the click-through rate, we had a higher probability of them seeing the content. I have a channel that all we did was replace all the thumbnails. We did not replace the title. We just replaced the thumbnail. And we got 3 times the amount of views after that. It was very consistent. We increased our baseline and we got 3x the amount of views we normally get in a month because we actually had better thumbnails that people would click on. And then after that, it was just like seeing what titles would work. And I've been always good at titling. And so it's just like trying to figure out what's going to be the best clickable, but it's just getting that visual appeal and knowing where it's weak. So.
Gotcha. All right. Where do ads fit into the equation here? So if you're doing YouTube advertising, you have the pre-roll ads or you're doing banner ads on other people's videos. Like, what are the opportunities and how do they feed into your overall YouTube strategy so you can get the massive billions of views?
So ads are a different thing. I think that if you're going organic, you go organic on YouTube. If you want a blended strategy of bringing some ad in, I probably wouldn't recommend doing it through paid advertising. I just think that it's 2 different things. But let's talk about ads specifically because I'm passionate about that, because on my other side of my agency, I work with companies and getting their message out, getting the videos to hit. And it's just like ads is the main focus for that. So ads are what really changed YouTube. When YouTube started, believe it or not, it was a dating website. I don't think a lot of people know that, but it was a dating website. And when they started their sample size with some students at Stanford and some people in that area, they realized no one was using it for dating, but they were using it to post pictures or their videos of their cat or the latest college prank or whatever it is. And so they really went back and retooled. And in June of 2005 is where they brought in a lot of recommendation features and really focusing on the video platform. They went from a dating site to broadcast yourself, and it was like self-broadcasting. And you had this huge little influx. So what was interesting, YouTube was purchased by Google for $1.65 billion the previous year. And YouTube's number one saying, hey, we want to make money at this. This is something we can do for free. So they're like thinking of ways that they can bring in advertising, but do it in the right way. Now, Google did 2 things that I really believe that created what the ecosystem is today and the opportunities for people like me to make a full-time living uploading videos to YouTube. But it also created the biggest issue that they have on the platform, which was this. They started to advertise and they started to infuse. And the current CEO at YouTube was the person that was with Google AdWords at the time, that was kind of the forefront of this. She's amazing. Susan's just amazing. And so she was like saying, okay, we need to bring in these ads and this is what it needs to be. But the thing that they did was they created a partner program where creators that are uploading content would share in the revenue. And so it created this ecosystem that what is YouTube today, where you have the advertiser, you have the viewer, and you have the creator. And it's been a balancing act for years because one of those individuals' groups feel disconnected. It throws everything out of balance. And so the bigger that it gets, the small little tweaks and the small little squeaks makes it even more unbalanced. And so that happened in 2007. And that's when the YouTuber says, hey, I can upload videos and quit my day job and just do what I love, which is creating content. So it created this subculture of creators that are going out there, which is really, really fascinating. But 2, the advertiser was able to really narrow down the niche and say, look, I know that these are the type of people I want. Why advertise on television when it's like the shotgun approach? I can get a very sniper approach and get the exact viewer that I want. And I can get the right messaging. And then we can do what they call brand integrations, where they're actually integrating the brand and the creators, the ambassador. And that's where it gets really, really fascinating. So it created this relationship. So you probably heard, and you guys probably seen in the news last couple of years, they call about the adpocalypse on YouTube. What happened is these advertisers were realizing that their ads were going on content that they didn't necessarily deem approved. My whole thing is buying a lot of ads is, number one, they're lazy because they can literally block anything. They just need to set up their AdWords account right. Like seriously, it's like, these are the words we don't want. You know, I mean, you can get very specific. but it was just blanket approach of just kind of going from there. And that's fine. That's fine. But the reality is that they started to say, hey, we're pulling our ad money until you fix this problem. And they were creating this problem that wasn't really there as much as it was, because the news it just made it great news and people were talking about it. But it created this issue. And before you know it, YouTube's really sensitive. And they started deleting videos. They started deleting channels. People were starting to lose their income. Well, they might have 14, 15 employees. And they're like, what am I going to do now? We just had our channel deleted. And it could have been a false positive. There's all these little things from there. And so that's kind of the makeup of it. And for advertisers, I think right now, it's really, really interesting. Number one, you can pick the channel that you want your ad to be on. Like I can say, I love this channel. It resonates with me. In your AdWords, you don't even have to contact the channel owner. As long as they're a partner and they're showing ads, you can have it show up. You can have it show up with Google Ads or DoubleClick. I mean, you just choose the way that you want to do it. And you now can piggyback on top of that. Now, here's the thing that I learned is there's a lot of people that would go piggyback on their competitor. And the creator wasn't smart enough to block those, to say, oh, I don't want to see any ads of these types on my videos, because it would be pulling people away from what I want them to experience. And so you don't want like Coke ad on a Pepsi channel, right? You just don't want that. And so you can set those parameters up, but most creators and also brands aren't smart enough to go through that. So.
Gotcha. This could be a whole other episode talking about YouTube advertising. Yeah, we actually did a whole YouTube advertising episode a while back now, but it was Tommy Powers, if you know Tommy.
Oh, dude, Tommy is one of the, I love that man.
He's awesome. Yeah, Tommy Traffic.
Yeah. And if you ever want to get like solid strategy, I would say Tommy's right at the top of the list for that, for sure.
You mentioned Reddit earlier. Is that something that you're investing a lot of time and focus into, like becoming a power user of Reddit, having a ton of post karma so that stuff that you submit will get a lot of visibility and then it goes viral and then you piggyback that into...
The thing I like about Reddit is it tells you what's going to happen on the internet before the internet knows it's happening on the internet. I mean, that's what I love about Reddit. I've been an early adopter. I think I'm 12 years on Reddit. So I spend quite a bit of time. This is a place where people don't have a filter. So it's not really good for everyone, but it's good to see what gets people to react and the human nature and the psychology of it. That's probably what sucks me in the most. And it is a rabbit hole. It's like when we're going down there, you get sucked into a rabbit hole and before you know it, you've lost hours. And I do that for a couple of reasons because that gives you a pulse of what works. And it is a great platform that can self-identify content that is promotional and they just push that off to the side. It's almost the only pure algorithm that really goes off of organic. And I know that there's been a lot of changes the last couple of years because they have to make money and a few other things like that. But that's why I spend the most time. Just give you context, it's like when we're doing a project, let me just give you an example. When we did the pooping unicorn ad for Squatty Potty, that commercial, just to give context to everyone, was uploaded 3 years ago. That campaign's still running today. The first year it did $45 million in attributable sales to that video. And it continues to perform time and time again. And when we were coming up with a concept in the writing and stuff on that, Jeffrey Harmon, who was the other executive producer, and he was a principal at that time for the Harmon brothers, says, hey, we want to do this idea of a pooping unicorn for this idea. And I'm like, I got to be a part of that. Anything with unicorns is like gold on the internet. And when you add poop to it, it's just like, okay, this is going to be interesting. So we go onto Reddit. And I'm just trying to see anything unicorn driven. And I didn't even know that this subculture even existed. Maybe I was just naive. I don't know. I'm in a small town in Utah. I don't know what it is. But I found this subculture of bronies. Do you know what a brony is?
I have no idea. Tell me more.
Okay. It's males, bros, that love My Little Pony. Those are bronies. And they are so obsessed with My Little Pony. And they even dress up as My Little Pony. It's just this subculture that's there. And I was like trapped in that rabbit hole of Reddit in that there's multiple subreddits of that, of bronies. But we found a lot of the jokes that we used as inspiration for some of the things that they were saying, and some of the stuff from there. And it was really, really interesting to see what would respond, what didn't respond, and so on and so forth. And so part of our strategy, even up to the launch, was I created this animated GIF of the unicorn actually pooping rainbow sherbet ice cream, and it took off on Reddit. We were testing the titles and stuff, and it just had legs of its own. I think the only thing I'd do different is make sure I'd really do that at the same time as the video release within a day or two. We waited a full week, and they still shared the video. We got hundreds of millions of views on it, but still, it's interesting. It's interesting. So
you didn't submit that yourselves to Reddit. You kind of put it out there as like, hey, community, you might want to pass this around or share this.
No, that's so green. You're a noob on Reddit. If you even say, hey, you might want this, it's like, no, you can't do that. You need to be a part of a community and contribute to a community, build up karma in that community to be respected. And then that helps validate how far your reach will go. And so with that, not getting too specific, but I have a few Reddit accounts. Like I just don't have one. And it's just like each one is geared to a specific vertical. And there's other people that do the same thing, but it's just like, I think it's just more understanding the pulse, how people communicate, what titling and thumbnail works in there that helps you with some title and thumbnail strategies. It's just a fun place. So
yeah, it is. I don't have time for it, so I delegate to my team to build up. Like I have a Reddit power user who's in the Sentry Club. Do you know what the Sentry Club is?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so that for listeners who aren't familiar with that, that's over 100,000 post-karma points. So she has alt accounts even that are in the Sentry Club.
And let me tell you, the Sentry Club is very difficult to be a part of. You don't get karma very easy on Reddit. You have to have people respond, and it can't be a paid way to do it. So
yeah, like she spends so many hours in there.
Yeah,
pretty crazy. So I have her creating accounts for me so that I'm not completely reliant on her. I want to have my own assets that are my own accounts that have post karma and comment karma. Anyway, so I digress. Enough on that.
But too, like from your audience, like if people are looking for SEO value, it's like one of the strongest platforms that rank just immediately in Google is Reddit.
Yeah.
If you understand that, brands are now adopting onto it. I was like going through some articles that was posted, and they're using Reddit to start adding multiple locations for them to rank on the front page.
Yeah. Very cool.
And it's usually the one that's most overlooked too, because they're like, you have the dark net and you have the internet and you have Reddit kind of in between. Like, we don't want anything to do over there. It's not what it is. It's just like, it's hyper localized niches that people are interested in the topic and they just want to spend time on it. So
yeah, and they hate marketers for the most part.
That they do.
Although there are some subreddits that are targeting marketing as the topic, but you got to be very careful if you're going to try and quote unquote market on Reddit. You're probably going to get chased.
You'll be burned at the stake.
Yes.
I'll just here to tell you right now, you'll be burned at the stake.
Pretty much.
Virtually.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, so this was all really fun and fascinating. If folks wanted to learn more about YouTube and all the opportunities that abound with just video marketing in general, where should we send them? I know there's this amazing conference called Vid Summit. I haven't been yet. I've been to VidCon, and I know that's a completely different animal. I've heard
completely different animal. Yeah.
I've heard really good things about Vid Summit. So where should we send our listeners to? VidSummit.com?
Yeah, you can follow me anywhere on socials at Derral Eves. It's spelled DerralEves. And you can pretty much find me anywhere on that. But for Vid Summit specifically, and I think you can appreciate this. So with a lot of the successes that I was always asked to speak and to train. And I love surrounding myself by people that are like-minded. And I learn so much when you're just really digging deep like we did today. This was actually really fun for me. So by the way, but it's just like
awesome.
The whole component of getting people's experience and you're talking openly is so cool. So I love speaking at conferences. However, I never found a conference that it just resonated with me personally. It's like, oh yeah, you had maybe one talk that you had some amazing things and then a golden nugget here or there. But I personally hate panels. Like I hate panels like it's the plague. And the reason why is like everybody's not prepared. It's like I want a prepared presentation. I want to be able to see case studies. I want to see, hey, this is what we thought. This is what we did. Here's what we did. Here's what we wish we would have did. And here's the results. And that's what I want to see. And it's just like, I could never find a conference. I always look for it. So I'm like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I decided I love to learn. I love to do it. I'm going to invite people that I wanted to learn from, and I'd put them on stage, and I would call it the Vid Summit. And you mentioned Tommy Powers. He was at the first Vid Summit. I wanted to learn as Tommy Traffic. And he came in and blew it completely out of the water. And I told him and the other speakers there, I'm like, this is where I want it to be in 3 or 4 years. And I'm like, man, you're pretty optimistic. But for me, I'm very goal-centric, and we were able to grow it, and it's been great. It's the #1 video marketing conference in the world, and we focus in on the business side of video. When you're a content creator, you're a brand, you're an agency, you're a marketer, it's 100% the business side. So it's like these agencies that want to work with creators and brands. We're showing tactics of ad strategies. We're talking about organic and so on and so forth. To give context, the top 10 most viral video ads of all time that produce the most, that gross the most in sales, we had 7 of the top 10 come and present and show everything. They open up everything and says, this is how we did it. Tell me a conference that really does that. And so for me, that's what gets me excited about it, especially seeing people that are very smart in their niche and they really get what they're doing and they're willing to share. And so we created this culture of what we call creators helping creators, or, it's just like people are helping each other. The biggest compliment came from the stage this last year. Gary V, some people like, some people don't like. Anyway, there's the second year at this conference, and he was able to see a huge difference. And he goes, I speak probably 52 weeks out of the year, and I've never seen a conference like this, in the sense that I look in the audience right now and I see keynote speakers at the other conferences that I go to, and they're here to learn. And it's true. It's like people, they don't come to just speak, but they come to learn and to share. And so if you want more information about it, just go to VidSummit.com. It gives you all the information that's going on. Happens October 15th through the 17th this year in LA. If you are at all interested in online video, this is the conference for you, because it's not like VidCon. I love VidCon. VidCon has its place, but you have 21,000 screaming little girls following their favorite creators. This one's all about money and growing audiences. And that's what we love.
That's awesome. And who I heard about VidSummit from first was Sean Cannell. I had him on the show on Marketing Speak, and I asked him, what are the alternatives to VidCon? Because I wasn't really that impressed. As you said, it's just all these little...
It's a different market.
Preteen girls running around after the Try Guys and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I really wanted to get more business value out of that conference. And that's when he told me about VidSummit. Yeah.
Well, Sean's been a great supporter. He's been there 4 out of the 5 years. So he wasn't at that first initial one because I didn't know him yet. So
awesome. Yeah. Very cool. And it's in my neck of the woods too, because I'm in Santa Monica.
Well, then it's just right down the road from you. So
very cool. Okay. And if somebody wanted to work with your agency to help kind of blow up online, how would they connect with your agency then?
You can go to the #4 Creatus, and it's CREATUS.com. We're very selective of who we take. We only have so much time, and I don't want this massive company. We have 12 employees, but I just want to keep it kind of boutique, and that's where we have the most fun. The thing for me, and I just want everyone to know, if you want to connect with me, it's about doing something different. Like, I'm here to disrupt the world. Like, I'm not satisfied with status quo. In fact, we just had a project where we did the #1 most crowdfunded project of all time in film and television, blew the record off the doors, like doubled the amount. And we just produced that series, like the first portion of that series. It's amazing. So I'm always looking to do things that are done differently, or if there's a different way that you feel like can disrupt. That gets my excitement going, gets my wheels thinking, and makes me motivated. So
awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Derral. This was a ton of fun and really illuminating and insightful. Listeners, I hope you got a ton of value out of it. I have a feeling you did. And now it's time to implement some of this stuff so that you get some business value out of this and not just entertainment or edutainment value. Derral, thank you again. And thank you, listeners. This is your host, Stephan Spencer, signing off. We'll catch you next week.